Hello everyone, welcome to Legacy of Success, a joint initiative between Executive Access and ILC by the Times Group. As you know, this series is all about featuring family businesses, who have done transformative work in their sectors over many years, and we are trying to I think some of these are very well known, but try to cover family businesses which have spanned generations and have today next generation of business leaders involved who are doing exceptionally good work, not just in terms of growing their businesses, but also transforming them. So one such leader today is Devansh Jain, the Executive Director of INOXGFL Group. Welcome Devansh, to Legacy of Success.
Hi Agam, thanks. It's a pleasure to be with you.
Thank you so much. And one of the things that I was very keen to understand, Devansh, and I've been very passionate about working with family businesses, especially working with leaders who've been in the businesses for a few years, who obviously got great years ahead of themselves, but who've come into the businesses and not just taken over their existing businesses, but also transformed them in many ways. So, I started the journey of GFL Group when you joined, and then how you pivoted them into the entire sort of renewable space. So it's been great to study from the outside. And I thought today it'll be more about understanding some of those brass tacks, challenges that you dealt with. So without further ado, welcome to this series, and we look forward to learning a lot about you and from you today.
Thank you. Hopefully I'll be able to share some insights. I'll do my best.
No, for sure. And my starting question to you, Devansh, is when you joined this business about a decade and a half ago, 18 years, my God, you still look like you're getting started, but I can only imagine 18 years ago. But when you joined this business, fresh out of campus, you would have come back and you joined a very traditional business back then, and of course you were a family which is known for, chemicals part of the business for many years. So when you joined the business, what did you look at that business when you entered? Was that sort of, always decided that you're going to be in the business first? But if yes, when you joined it, how did you look at that business from outside? How did you make some of those pivots that we see today? What were some of the strategic choices you made? And just give us a little sense of where you are today in that journey.
I've been born and brought up in a business family. So it wasn't just chemicals. We were a large, diversified group even back in the day.
Yeah.
Of course, the scale today is a completely different scale. There was a realignment in our family a couple of years ago, and in our new avatar, we've kind of scaled up almost 8x, 10x of what we were 2 or 3 years ago. But having said that, as happens many times in business families, for us, breakfast, lunch, dinner was always hearing about numbers, hearing about challenges, hearing about opportunities, hearing about how dad went and built multiple arms of the erstwhile group or even the current group. And so for me, it was always a natural progression that I would come back and join the business. Which business, what sector, didn't matter. Business is business. And when I was at Carnegie Mellon, my entire focus was just absorbing your ideas, your concepts, how the world is different from India. I mean, today it's a very globalized world. All our kids are in different schools. They understand the global trends. Back in the day, it was still, 20 years ago, still a different time period. When I graduated, I did a dual degree. It was very clear I wanted to come back and join the business. Well, there was a little bit of a debate within the family whether I should work outside in an investment bank. The opportunity was to work there, but I was very clear I wanted to come back. So mom wanted me to be outside. Dad was finding the way.
And it's reverse, by the way. How many moms want you to come back?
I've known, I'm not sure why they had that equation, but having said that, I was pretty clear I wanted to come back. I don't want to miss time. Because the investment banking, unless you're going to go and do 4-5 years outside, do not really go climb the ladder. Just do be excited or getting coffee for your boss and no disrespect to anybody. I don't want to do that. I mean, like I said, I did the dual degree 3 years. If I really wanted to just be outside, I could have found enough excuses to stay outside the system. So when I got back, I think there were multiple opportunities because there were multiple businesses at that point in time, not just chemicals. To be fair, I think what Dad did was he let me, what I would say is shadow all the senior people in the group across different businesses.
That's great.
And there were 1 or 2 group companies which were looking at global acquisitions at that point. So I went along with the team. Not that I knew much, I didn't know too much, but I was traveling with them, understanding, putting my ideas, my thoughts, my brains, came back, made a report, gave it to the senior team, Dad, etc. Those were the initial phase. I think thereafter I started spending more time on the chemicals business because that was headquartered here. That was something which was growing exponentially. forward integration, backward integration. I don't think that needed anybody, but clearly you want to help your father as young Nehru's come back. And I think I spent enough time with all the senior people to understand what that was. And those were the initial days. At that point in time, we had very large cash flows in Gujarat Float. And we were looking at diversifying into a new business. So we were in fact working with McKinsey to identify new business opportunity at that point in time. One of the areas which we had targeted was renewables, because in GFL, we had the world's first clean development mechanism project. It was registered as UNFCCC 001, where we were mitigating the carbon dioxide by incinerating certain gases which were emitted during the chemical process. So that foresaw the future, where he said renewables is the future. Today, everybody talks of renewables. Then, renewables is correct. It's sexy to be in renewables. 20 years ago, nobody heard of renewables. It was like, kya karenge, jayenge. Very futuristic, right? It's like talking about AI 20 years ago. So that's how renewables came up. And then we started working on a concept with them. How do we go about doing it? Obviously, what the concept was and how we implemented it was a complete disaster. What was showcased on a piece of paper and what we were getting in terms of results was a complete disaster. So actually, we went 360 degrees in that entire process. Can elaborate more on that as you move forward if relevant. But it's nice to get reports from consultants sometimes. But the pitfalls and the challenges and how you maneuver through it, navigate through it, and build your own DNA and your success story is something what stands out. Otherwise, honestly, and no disrespect again to anybody, we have a report to 100 people, 100 corporates. It's not that 100 of them are in that sector. There are only 1, 2, 3, 4. Or if 100 people are trying to enter, they're just me too's. They're not creating value too. Fortunately for us, I think we really went the whole deck, and I think we've created a fairly strong renewable space for us at this point in time. I think where we are headed in the next 2, 3, 4 years is mind-blowing. So I think we're very excited about the upcoming growth.
Lovely. And we talk about, what excites you in the future as well. But just to hold you on to the point which you said, that it looks very sexy from the outside and everybody today talks about it. And I know you spoke about, in very brief, that, if the reports are to be taken at face value, then the world is a very simple place. So of course, I stumbled, you fell, you had challenges, you had things which are beyond your control as well, of course, through COVID and lot of policy issues as well. So, sure. Not getting into the lot of details of it, but what I want to bring out to the viewers also is that sometimes it's not so easy to, build business in which today you can look back and say, oh, we did that. So just talk to us a little bit about some of your challenges. What did you encounter? What did you learn out of it? Therefore, and how has that helped you today in shaping the narrative in many ways for the group and the company?
I think I'll talk about 2 specific challenges, right, rather than getting into hundreds of things. One was, many times people think you're born with a silver spoon, and if you want to build out a new business, or nowadays you hear about startups, my father's given me 100 crores, I'm building it out. No matter what the size of the group was at that point in time, when I wanted to build out INOXGFL, it took me about a year and a half, if I did my father, to get 10 crores to build that company out. I had done all the work. I thought I had done all the work. I spent about a year and a half in China studying the supply chain, looking at technology, doing a lot of stuff. And I said, what's the worst? 10 crore jayega. I'm young. Agar kabhi kuch karne nahi doge. So I'll just keep following. But I think the important part was Dad put out so many questions, or the senior team also put out so many, this is not possible, this will not work, that we kept refining it. And we kept asking, is this right? I must have interviewed at least 300 people across the wind sector back in the day. In fact, many times that I used to be sitting in the room, they would say, we are waiting for Devansh. And I said, nahi Devansh hai. Because they would think it's a promoter or whatever it may have been. I was 22, 23 at that point in time, 38 now. So I think the initial learning was, nothing is easy. To get 1 rupee or 1 crore or 100 crore, you gotta show the data, and you gotta convince all of us. I mean, if you just want charity from your father, then a mother or a father will do that charity. We weren't doing charity here. We were clearly talking about building businesses. And if you want that, then you need to get all your senior team members who were in the group to clear the idea, no matter how small or large that amount was. So I think that was one important point, because that led to INOXGFL being created. And again, it was built with 20 crores. 10 crores is what the family gave me, and 10 crores was invested by Gujarat Float, because they needed it once. Of course, Gujarat Float made more than 3,000-4,000 crores of that 10 crores. It's a free ball game. The second key challenge, which was unprecedented in 2017. Post our IPO in 15, we'd really grown this company from zero to about 4,500 crores of top line, from zero to about 500 crores of PAT. 500 crores of PAT was large in 15, 16, because it may be a normal number, not a very large number, not a small number. But in 15, 16, 500 was a large number. Very strong company, very strong base. We were growing comfortably in 15, 12%. And then there was a policy change where we went from feed-in tariffs to auctions, which led to a complete shutdown, collapse of the sector. What I mean by that is we went from 5,000 crores of top line to zero. We went from 600 crores of cash on the balance sheet to 3,000 crores of debt in 2 years. We had almost 35 players go bankrupt in the sector. There were primarily 1 or 2 players who survived, us, with zero haircut to bankers, and other players survived with about $2.5-3 billion of haircut to the bankers. Now that was a perfect storm. There's nothing you can do. There is no way you can come out. I mean, proof of the pudding is 35 players went bankrupt. The only other guy who survived along with us took a $2.5-3 billion haircut. So, but the point was, who do you go and cry? Who do you give the sob story to? Right? You die, they put a tombstone, shaheed ho gaye, kaam khatam ho gaya. We fought for 5 years. We obviously got support from GFL, got some money from them. The family, dad was standing strong. Whatever money we had, we put all of that in the company. It was working, 18, 20 hours in a day, which was losing 500 crores a year for almost 5 years. I don't know what my health was like. We had God knows how many legal cases. Every creditor behind our back. Every banker was bajaying us. Because I never met bankers. I know every banker today and they love us. Having said that, the bankers didn't know us. One of the guys who was heading it left us. So, I was just left in the ocean. Didn't know bankers, meeting them for the first time and saying we're doing this. The group reputation was very strong. And then they thought that the group is so strong. But you have 10 legs. Every leg can't just come in and sell itself to save this leg. So it was, I don't know how we came out of that situation, but we came out of that situation. It was a lot of perseverance, a lot of pain, no sleep. Health took a toll. There was a realignment in our family, and I would believe 99% of that was thanks to INOXGFL. Having said that, I think where we are today, the entire renewable arm, the listed arm of the group is worth about 50,000 crores. The unlisted arm is equally large. And I think in the next 2 years, our renewables arm will probably be 2 times the size of our chemicals arm. So, had we not survived, had we not gone through the hell which we went through, had we just run away, we would not be where we are. I mean, trading almost 1 lakh crore of wealth is more than what GFL has done since the time it's been born. And GFL, mind you, is growing exponentially. The EV arm of GFL is going to be another very large part of our group, probably larger than GFL as we move forward. It doesn't come easy. I don't think it ever comes as hard as it had to come for me. But I mean, I've met so many industrialists, so many politicians, and all of them say, Devansh, what you went through is the best because now you're prepared for the future. You asked me how it's prepared me for the future. Today, when we look at challenges, they're not challenges, they're only opportunities for us. And when I create a new business or whatever we do, we've created it in a manner that it's so well capitalized that come what may, none of the other parts need to come in to support this business. So all those business stands on its own. Ups and downs would happen. It was like you've heard of many times, आप thermal power लगा रहे हो, कोल scam हुआ, कोल ही बंद कर दिया तो thermal power बंद हो गया. यहाँ पे तो कोई scamming नहीं था. Renewable energy थी. They shut down the sector. What do you do? But again, you got to stand. Life is not fair every time, right? And if you survive, that's when you create enormous wealth. That's where you have the opportunity to build scale. So effectively, where we are today and how we're building this group is all thanks to INOXGFL. Of course, GFL and GFL EP. What INOXGFL led to INOXGFL is leading to our EPCR, is leading to what I'm very excited about INOXGFL. We have an IPO lined up in the near future. It's a confidential DRFP which we filed for. So I can't talk much about it, but probably it is one of the largest renewable IPOs, if not the largest in the country. So all these opportunities have come around thanks to us building and ensuring INOX will survive.
Very beautiful story, Devansh, because when you look things from the outside and we look things as they stand today, arguably 1 lakh crore of market capitalization, multiple businesses, multiple listed entities, one only thinks of success. One doesn't know the grit, the tears, the sacrifices that go behind. And one of the things I must, compliment is also how you've, given the credit where it is due to your family, to your father, to all the senior management, One of the things that you want to draw from this series also, Devansh, is that when we talk to family businesses, right, and we see a lot of family businesses where next generation of leaders are either emerging or are today in one way or the business involved, but we also see many of them who are not wanting to play a role in the business at all, right? So what I want to learn from your story today, and hopefully for our viewers as well, is how important is it for the family to play the role that your family play. When you go and you spoke about even getting 10 crores of money, right? I have clients and I have friends who will tell me that my son wants 100 crores. You mentioned that boy, he wants to do something in the startup world. He wants to do this kind of business. So what are some of those lessons that you will, want to give to, those viewers of next generation of family businesses from your story?
Look, I mean, each to their own, right? Some people are not interested or passionate about joining the family business. Some, family office has become a very cool concept. But to be honest, I'm a little bit of the word mentality. I think, as I mentioned, business is in my DNA, my blood. I live, breathe, eat, sleep business. All my conversations with Diana are there. I think for next generation guys who are actually getting into business, not family offices, because frankly speaking, I don't have any input for those guys as such. I think those who are really getting into business, I think 2 or 3 things. One, you need to be very passionate. You got to persevere. And as I said a couple of times before, hard work plus passion eventually leads to good luck. There's nothing but good luck. What is good luck? आप बैठे नहीं है कि अरे यार लॉटरी लग गई. You got to keep working hard and you got to be passionate about it, because only then perseverance pays. What is perseverance? You're passionate and you're working hard. That's why you're persevering, right? Or you have that grit. Because otherwise everybody works hard. Like you have a donkey and a horse, right? I say that many times. A donkey is also working very hard. That doesn't mean every donkey becomes a horse, right? And starts running in a race. When you're very passionate about a goal or purpose, about what you want to achieve, then you'll ensure no matter which challenge comes, you'll get through it, or you'll have the grit and the perseverance to go through that. And at some point in time, that hard work plus that passion, perseverance is equal to good luck. So in our scheme of things that I mentioned to you, what was good luck? 5 years of hell, eventually when it turned, it became good luck. ऐसा थोड़ी था कि 5 साल बता रहे थे and suddenly good luck आ गया था. At some point in time, the cycle will turn. So I think for a lot of the newer generation people, I think everyone's patience levels are low today. It's all about T20, right? बल्ला घुमा दिया 6 लग गया तो very good, नहीं लगा तो यार घर जाओ आप. When you're creating things, it takes time. There's no quick solution to creating enormous wealth or creating large companies or successful companies. You're going to have ups, you're going to have downs. So work hard, be passionate, and have the resilience, grit, perseverance, whatever you would call that, so that eventually you come out on top. That's the crux. For any entrepreneur, any new generation guy trying to get into business or doing something, which their father or their uncles
or even they are doing on their own.
And I don't think you should just get colored by this new age concept of startups. It's great. I think some of our startups are phenomenal. A lot of the new guys are doing phenomenal stuff. Having said that, again, it's like renewables. It's sexy today. Startups are sexy today.
What startup? There was a startup once for it.
It was, but that was not the startup culture. The past 5-6 years has become Mission India, startup, blah, blah, blah. So everyone says, मुझे भी 100 crore दे दो, मैं भी startup बना. अरे भैया, ऐसी 100 crore दे दो, किस चीज के लिए दे? कोई idea है, कोई business plan है? Do you have a mode? Do you have a reason to succeed? Or is it that burn? Out of, what people also forget is, out of a billion, 1,000 ideas, there are really 5 or 10 companies which have reached the top. The remaining 995 have burnt and folded up. Where are you going to get that money from? What have you done to deserve that now? Either you put in your seed capital and then you go around raising capital everywhere. Not that my father gave me a burnt it, blown it. ठीक है यार, क्या हो गया? You have a responsibility at the end of the day. Don't take 100 crores from me and say I blew it.
As a small example, I was in one of the leading Indian business schools a couple of months ago on a talk. There were 150 very bright kids.
Sure.
All of them passing out.
Right.
You won't believe, Devansh, almost 75% of them only had one question. That I have an idea, I want to start up, how can I raise money? And I was just surprised with on one end you feel very impressed with the, with the confidence level some of these, kids have. But you also worry, right? Other thinking like, do they even really know what it'll take to succeed? So I think just a side plot, but we're coming back to, your sector. Would love to know a little bit more about some of the big bold bets that you're playing, and how do you see the renewable sector on the whole today? We understand it's very critical to the PM's vision. We understand it's very critical to the country's sort of, future infrastructure plans of 500 gigawatts or, energy, clean energy, etc. So talk to us a little bit about the macro, situation in the economy and how is INOX sort of gearing up for that?
Look, it's all driven by the fundamental sector chairman, if I may call so, Prime Minister Modi, right? We've got a 2030 target of 500 GWs renewables. And this whole Atmanirbhar concept, right? Where what Modi ji is doing is he wants every piece of the pie, whether it's EVs, whether it's wind turbines, solar, to be Atmanirbhar, India to be Atmanirbhar, domestically manufactured, consumed domestically. And I think what is not spoken very often about is the fact that as we shift on our power consumption to renewable energy, right, we stop importing oil and coal. There was a statement about 15 days ago by Modi ji and the Honorable Minister for Renewable Energy, where they said in the past 5 years or so, we've saved about $71 billion of oil imports because of the renewable energy targets. I mean, just recently the country's achieved the distinction of having 50% of all our power coming in from renewable energy sources. Yes, that's nameplate capacity because obviously renewables operates at a much lower PIF. But when you've got such a strong champion driving this whole concept, because globally you've also seen certain countries which announce something, some legal changes, they go back. But also fundamentally what is very important today is renewables is the cheapest source of power. So that is driving this entire competitiveness. Rather than you buying power at 2 times the cost or someone just saying I'm doing good for my future generations, which is equally important. But at the end of all of this, the core is renewables is the cheapest source of power. So धंधे में और business में most important चीज क्या है आपके लिए? Profit. Profit जहाँ से आएगा cheapest source of power से. So you're doing no favor on me by putting up renewable energy. That's the most important goal. And then obviously we have our national champion driving this entire thing. Within this piece, what we are trying to do at INOXGFL is we are trying to position ourselves at the forefront of this energy transition play. We are today creating one of the deepest, most integrated conglomerates in renewable energy or the energy transition sphere in India. And what is that? So we're in EV, where we're setting up the world's largest battery chemical complex outside of China. We're in wind turbines, where we're India's second largest wind turbine company. We're setting up, we recently forayed into solar, our first module plant is starting. That's something where we're setting up the top 3 or 4 in the next year. We'll be probably the 3rd or 4th largest solar cell and module manufacturer in the country. We run IMOX Grey, which is India's only listed O&M services company, possibly the 2nd largest renewable services company in the country. We have a EPCR, which is probably the most integrated wind, which is the most complex EPC renewables. EPCR, which was soon going to be demerged in industry. And then you have a very large IPP, which we're setting up now, which would probably be one of the largest IPPs under the CNI wood captive sector. So if you look at this entire piece, we're across the entire spectrum of energy transition, including BESS, battery energy storage systems, which is part of EV. And if you notice what I mentioned, each of these is in a leadership position. As opposed to someone saying, मैं भी wind turbine में हूँ, मैं भी solar में हूँ, मैं भी battery 1 megawatt battery लगाया, एक module लगाया, मैंने एक battery plant खोल दिया. We are creating leadership positions. Because for us as a group, what we believe is, if you're a leader, you drive economies of scale, you drive policy change, and you have moats cannot be replicated easily. And I think that is what we're doing in this integrated approach. So for example, many times when we sell a turbine, you have RTC hybrid FDR. Everyone comes and says, "Aap hi mujhe solar de do," because the EPC say. So we forward into solar. We had very large captive power requirements, so we set up our IPP, which gives us baseload capacities. And then now we're selling to CLI and under second NTPC tenders. For GFL, it was forward integration. It took us 4-5 years, very complex, to make the heart of batteries. What we make is 40% of the battery cost, and the battery is 40% of an electric with its cost. So we're the largest supplier of components of parts or chemicals, whatever you would call, to a battery or energy storage systems. So that's what we're building. And each of these is significant capital deployment across the world. Many times people ask me this question, how do you allocate capital? We don't have that challenge because every company of ours has its own capital available. And they raise their own capital if they need more capital. So it's not as if I'm sitting with 100 rupees and saying, we'll take 10 rupees, solar take 80 rupees. Oh, now I'm running out of capital. Every company has been created in a situation, it's also from our learning, that God forbid something goes wrong with one arm or it's struggling, no other arm is impacted. That arm can sustain itself or will raise capital or do what it needs to do. I mean, as promoters, of course, we can come in and back any venture, but no other company will cross-subsidize or, transfer funds or guarantees or whatever it may be, which we had to do at that point in time because we were left with one company, there was a realignment happening and we were struggling. I mean, just a case in point, when we had this realignment, we went from about 5,000 crores of market cap today. Our listed and unlisted arms about $18 billion. So from $1 billion to close to 18 billion in 3 years. That's what we've gone through.
Yes.
And it's helped us create a structure where, challenges will come. Problems do come. But then every leg is strong enough, is capitalized enough to be able to deal with it. And God forbid we need more capital, then as promoters we will step up. So not that my chemical company will help wind or solar will come into wind and wind will go into chemicals and so on and so forth.
No, one of the things which again caught my attention was that not just the diversification, right? A lot of times you hear, families, diversify into other businesses, but not too many times, one also hears of such lovely forward integrations the way you're doing to your the chemicals business as well by forward integrating for the EDs, right? So talk to us a little bit about that. I mean, I heard a lot about what World is doing on renewables, but this seemed to be such a great idea. This seemed like such a strong position where you were sitting in with what you were making, right?
Again, I think credit goes to Dad. End of the day, we are paranoid. We keep thinking over next. And to that extent, as I mentioned, the products which we make are 40% of the battery cost and the battery 40% of the electric vehicles cost. So in fact, we control almost 50% of an EV vehicle, right? Now, how we forward integrated into it is because majority of the products which you're making are backed by fluorine. We're the largest fluorine players in the country. Obviously, it required cuts and vision to see you have Chinese sometimes. The battery supply chain was controlled by China. Then you had IRA come into the US. And now you have the big, beautiful bill, as President Trump calls it, where the Chinese supply chain effectively gets cut off, shunned or whatever it may be. So our EV vertical, which we were building, is scaling up to an extent which were not visualized when we had thought of this. And given that we've raised significant capital there, we're building it out massively. But again, it wasn't that we just went from, cement to steel to aluminium. We went into this because fluorine was the heart for majority of the products. Along the way, as we were tying up agreements with some of the largest EV guys in the world, they said, can you also do this for us? Because I would rather buy the entire bouquet from one guy. So we added certain other products, which are not necessarily backed by fluorine, but which are integral to the battery supply chain. So that's how we went around building the battery business.
It's great, and like you very beautifully summed up all your businesses in terms of where they are in the leadership positions as well. So I think a lot, of course, is in favor. Therefore, for where you are now. You've spoken a couple of times, about the role that your father has played, whether it was pushing you very hard on the business plan that you created much earlier when you were 22 or something. Even, taking those bets at that time, the renewables be the future, we'd invest there. Even today with forward integration. So, talk to us a little bit about, how important it is, therefore. And I'm assuming in a way, he's someone that you really look up to, right? So, talk to us a little bit about, your father is a role model, the values that, you've got from him, how you are, picking those values up in a way, and also giving it the modernity that it would require for the businesses of tomorrow. So just a little bit of connection to what the value system have you picked up from your family, your fathers, and how this kind of...
Look, as I mentioned, right from an early age, right, Dad's a workaholic. And effectively, prior to that, I don't think we were an industrial group, but we were a trading arm. So I think it all began post Dad coming back from IIM Ahmedabad, then starting the industrial journey, to be honest. And all those stories which I've heard about him trying to create the refrigerant business, not having capital, the big boys, there was a license Raj and all that stuff back in the day. The big boys used to be, trying to put him down, not let him get to what he wanted to do. They ganged out, gave him a very small quota or whatever it used to be back in the day. So those were all the stories I've heard about, right? And how that came. That is far larger than any of those erstwhile businesses, and I think multiple times. What is interesting about Dad is his grit and his perseverance skills are unparalleled. I don't have that. I'm very patient. Of course, I've learned that in the course of the year, given the situation in the remote, but his perseverance is just unparalleled. goes on and on and on till that business succeeds. For example, our floor pond business took 6 or 7 minutes to do it. You said samples would get rejected, would come back. You get a chance only after 1 year, then again send it, gets rejected 4 years. And what was the plot? That is very ambitious. And I think that's had a rub-off effect obviously on me. I am far more ambitious than that. But looking at him, all the grit, resilience, perseverance, no shortcut, focusing on some of the key elements, right? Operational key elements and cash flows. Those are very important for us. No matter which business I'm building, I mean, the renewable app today has 5 or 6 legs. Each of those arms are the back of my hand. I know them inside out. Of course, we are now 4 or 5 very senior professional CEOs running that. We have a very, very dedicated, strong team. But at the end of the day, I know my businesses. That's how I can let them run it. And I know what questions to ask. Our review mechanism is very strong. If you don't know what you're going to do, you're not just going to sit there as an Anaji and say, Ab kya hua yaar? Problem kaise solve karegi? Today, as I mentioned to you, after the hell which I went through, when problems come, we attack it so hard, it never goes up. Because we've just seen a lot of this stuff. Having said that, I think some of the other values and qualities, I think we've been very, very fair. We will never maro paisa. Debt is something that you're very averse to. And I'm telling you very honestly, we are almost 3,000 crores of debt in wind. Every single paisa rupee was paid off. Number of people who hoodwinked us, who conned us, who did everything under the weather to extract money, been through all of that. And we've paid a lot more. But our belief is simple. If I borrow 1 rupee from you, they say 10 rupees mara jayega. See, if I didn't have money that time, yes, delay karke diya. But not 1 rupee was taken away from anybody. Today in the banking system, you talk of INOXGFL, we have lines available left, right and center. Every company of ours is net cash. Inox Clean, the IPP arm, we're setting up a large capacity. We have multiple lines across every bank today because that's the khaki where you're waiting your money coming, right? Debt equity. Every banker, MNCs, Indian saying, aap jitna chahiye aapke. 3,000 crore lines, 5,000 crore lines, 4,000 crore lines. It's not that I'm running around or meeting anybody. Because they know when we talk and when we're sitting behind a company, we will do our best. Even in situations where 35 players are folded up, we've come out on top with not a single rupee of equity. So I think that credibility, that financial might which we have, investors have minted money across our companies. So that credibility which we bring, that faith which people have, holds us good. So when I'm building new companies, पैसा सामने से आ जाता है. अगर debt तो हमारे यहाँ है नहीं, पर अगर चाहिए सामने से सब बैठे ने, and we don't want it. Bar in the IPP because that's how it's now. But that's also completely secured because your central PP is. So I think these are the qualities which you have invite from that. And again, I think in terms of modernity, you asked me what have I changed. As I mentioned, I think I'm far more aggressive than that. Decision making is far more quicker. Risk taking ability is far more. We take bolder bets. We move much faster. I let it ride on some of our top people. There's no right, there's no wrong in this. Dad would take smaller bets. Very large for him again. I don't think I would be anywhere without that. Having said that, his bets, we're investing say 500 crores multiple times. I'm investing 3,500 crores. We've taken that call. And again, good part is Dad gets full flexible. He's not coming in the way of anything. He gets an update. He's very cool. He's soch liya, dekh liya, kar liya, who's reviewing it, how are you doing? In fact, last time he was asking me, who's seen the numbers? We've acquired a company recently. So, Papa, I'm there. No, beyond you. I said, the CEO, no, but where's the CFO? I said, we're getting another CFO that I'm because it's becoming much larger. Be sure what you're doing. So he has his own ways, checks, balances, etc., to just keep reminding. But I think we've been through enough. We've seen that we take much larger bets. I take much larger bets. Do it much quicker. Also, we raise more capital very quickly because we've seen that. When you have that capital, you're able to build out much faster, take much bolder bets. And I saw a little bit of that when I was working closely with Bhatam Bhai. I think these are the two people I generally always look up to Bhatam Bhai. With him also, perpetually the right team and capital. If you have the right team and you have the capital, you can really go the whole hog.
You have some lovely role models, I must say, Devansh. So half the battle won, I would say.
But you still got to execute.
The role models that you are following are the ones who executed brilliantly. But one question you spoke about on having professionals and how you are therefore taking bigger, bolder bets, which obviously makes lot of riding on some of those strategies, and of course it requires it needs an army to execute, right? So how's the sort of intermix between the family and the professionals today? What do you see in those professionals at leadership levels when they join you? What do you see in them in terms of personalities and DNA that works very well with you as promoters and as a family?
Look, to be honest, in terms of family, it's only my father and me. It's two of us. Dad is obviously the chairman of the group. He spends more time on the EV arm today. Chemicals is pretty strong. The entire renewable arm is under me. Obviously, Dad is the boss. Having said that, I think when we look at the CEOs or the HODs, what is very important for me is fitment with you. One is passion, and two is numbers. You can't come in front of me if you don't know numbers, because numbers are back of my head. Numbers are playing in my head 24 hours. If you don't know your numbers, it annoys me, it irritates me, you won't be able to last. You need to know your numbers, every cost, capex, return, how will it work, what will happen. Up down can keep happening. 3 months aage, 6 months aage, all that does. Numbers, supply chain costs are the backbone of DNA of this entire renewable arm. My supply chain review happens every week. We try and save 100 rupees also we can save every week. So I think one, passion. Goal kya hai aapka life mein? Karna kya chahte ho? And second, people who are driven by numbers. I think those are very important for me. In terms of the key people who work with me. Now obviously if you're a quality assurance guy, first time it doesn't report to me. The CEOs primarily work closely with me. And the CFOs have to be numbers guys. CEOs have to know the larger picture and the big micro picture. Some of the people, as they spend time with me, they realize how I think, the vision. When we're bringing things together, what am I thinking? And then they all adjust, align. Dimag hona chahiye samajhne ke liye hum karna kya cha rahe hain. Open to ideas. So sometimes what happens with me is I'm fixated with certain views. I hear everybody, but I'm very clear what I need to do. Then it doesn't matter what you say. For example, when we are pouring into solar, our payback period is now 3 months. Our group CFO really was asking, "Kyun kar rahe hain? Nahi. Today you ask him, he think, oh, DJ thinks is unbelievable. We couldn't think of that." Sometimes you gotta think differently. Or they're just bets which we take because we are convinced about them. Everything is not arithmetic. Sometimes you buy companies, right? I just told you we had an acquisition. It took us a year and a half because we acquired it for NCRT. For 1.5 years run there, I bought it at 2 times EBITDA. Probably sector trades at 13 times. 1.5 years was wasted. Money was blocked. Eventually we knew we could win. Eventually you knew we would call. You got to take that call. If I have that faith, sometimes professionals can't do this. We need to take that call. We need to take that bet. And I think that's where our DNA, our learnings, these 18 years of different things, puts us that we move very quickly, very rapidly and take bets. I think that's how it is. And in terms of mix of professionals, I think the entire top team is very professional across the board. They're running. I want people who take decisions, go by to have rights and wrongs. That's not a big deal. More rights than wrongs. Can't keep repeating mistakes. And then own it and run it. Don't just take things and then say, "Upar main baitha hu." That is absolutely unacceptable. Run it. You have full power. I'm giving you that flexibility to do it. And then deliver and come back. And then I only review very closely what you said and the target you set, besides everything you're building up. Because I want those stuff. You don't achieve goals, they irritate. And you're going to get it from me. That's how we work. That's how I work.
In a way, it's a great lesson in accountability as well, right? When how you work with professionals. And I think there are no right or wrong answers, but when to a lot of groups who will develop and evolve in the future, I think how do you sort of bring the right professionals? How do you give them right accountability, but have the DNA fit right? I think that's the most important, right? You work with people who think like you, who are passionate like you, who are driven like you, and I think then that's the only way sort of possible.
And also when you work together, concepts need to be clear. When you work together, then you build a equation, right? You can't just walk in and have an equation. Over a period of time, that equation gets better. As long as your principles and fundamentals are clear.
I know. I mean, there's a lot to cover, Devansh, but I think one of the things I would love to know from you before we sort of wrap up this series is, you became part of a legacy, and today that legacy in many ways is redefined to where you are today. If you were to look 10-15 years hence, and by no means it means that that's going to come to an end, but what is the legacy that you would build from here? And if you were to look back maybe when you are 60 and you say this is what we created, what would that be? What would that legacy of INOXGFL look like?
No, honestly, I don't think like that. I'm just driven by a couple of things. Maybe I think one is we want to be the best at what we do. We want to be leaders. As I said, we're trying to create one of the deepest, most integrated energy transition plays in the country. And I think, to answer your question, it would be, we are contributing to India's future, or key contributors to India's green future, through this huge, deep, integrated, renewable energy transition ecosystem which we are building. Of course, along the way, create huge value, wealth for all our stakeholders. I think those would be the 2 or 3 things where, I mean, if you look at it today, what is the future? We talk of 2 areas, right, in the future: energy transition, and we talk of AI. I'm not in AI, I don't understand, I can't create codes and all that stuff. But on energy transition, I would like to be known, or we would like to be known as a group, that we're at the forefront of that. We are changing India, making it green, clean for future generations. And obviously, as I said, along the way, creating tremendous value and wealth across all our companies for the entire ecosystem. Not just us, all our shareholders, all our employees, all our supply chains, all our customers make right products, right quality, operating. So I think that's what we will provide. If that answers your question, I think that's what I would think of would be my goal.
I just have one more question for you, Devansh. When you of course look back at your journey, if you were to give an advice to your 22, 23-year-old self, family business eyeing, sort of about to get into the business, what would your advice, all your experiences today, what would you advise your 23-year-olds?
As cliched as it may sound like, I think there is no shortcut to success. When I started, obviously I had the world at my feet, right? Dad's there, all the group companies are there. You never imagine a situation where the main chemical revenues that stalled due to Montreal Protocol XYZ. We went into wind, that failed after point in time. Or the way we started failed. When we went into wind, post the IPO, you see super success, and then you go into the cut-up. Yeah. I think to a younger person, or to my younger sense of my version, I would just say, there's no shortcuts to success, number 1. And number 2, you have to persevere. That's it. You are going to go through ups and downs. You can't give up. And the world is not fair. Because when I went through that hell, I was just, what did I do wrong? Why me? I had done nothing wrong. I had not cheated anybody. I had done no fraud. There's no coal scam. Why did you bajao me from being the largest company in our erstwhile group to virtually be bankrupt? For what? I kept asking that question. I would be on this balcony of mine wanting to jump off. Obviously, I wouldn't, but why me? And that answer today is, I was possibly or probably built for this. As I mentioned to you, our entire renewable arm base stayed unlisted, potentially almost a lack of goodwill. Had I not gone through that, we would not have created this. We would have been very cushy, comfortable, or I would have been very cushy, comfortable. So I think there's going to be light at the end of the tunnel. Just keep doing your bit and, persist. So I think it's not one suggestion, it's probably an answer which I'm trying to put out there. But, I think that's what I would say.
And as I say, another cliched statement, but no pain, no gain. So I think pain that you possibly see is giving you the gains today. But thanks a lot, Devansh. Thanks a lot for being your candid self. I think there are lots of nuggets of wisdom in it. We've loved the fact that, there's such a healthy relationship between your father and you today.
All work.
Yeah, that's what all work. But, that's very important. It's also a very good lesson on, not just having one way and upward hockey stick kind of a growth, but, you always have ups and downs. How do you stay true to the cause? How do you sort of, take the long term? And I think eventually you come on the right side, as long as you have, rightly you say, 2 things: passion, undying passion, and I think lots and lots of hard work.
Yeah, absolutely.
So thanks a lot. It really defines who you are, but we thoroughly enjoyed the session.
Thank you so much, Aga. It was a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you.